Hey, thanks for joining. Today we're talking about healthcare open enrollment, and I brought someone on to help me. Thanks for joining us today. Scott Townsend here with Simplifiu, and we're talking about open enrollments for healthcare. And joining me today is Brittany Robichaud from Health Markets. Thanks for joining me, Brittany.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott. It's really
Sure.
great.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Health Markets.
Yeah, so I am actually going into my fifth year at Health Markets. So I pretty much help people make decisions about insurance products um, to help you protect your health and financial well-being. So I work with individuals, families. I help customize affordable solutions. I work with many different carriers, but I'm here basically to design a plan customized to you. So it's not a one size fits all approach. And it's a free consultation, and I don't charge any fee for my services.
Awesome. And I have to say, thanks for joining this time of year because I know you're super busy. So open enrollment time, we're kind of in the back end of open enrollment for some of the plans. My personal experience, I'm self-employed, so I've had to do the Healthcare.gov, ACA, plan. This will be my second time around with that. But let's talk a little bit about, you know, open enrollment. What does that mean in terms of healthcare and like the different, healthcare.gov, Medicare? Can you describe a little bit about that?
Yes. So definitely trying to navigate healthcare.gov is really hard. There's so many plans and whatnot, but to start open enrollment, and that's the yearly period in the fall when people can enroll in health insurance or change the plan for the next calendar year. So the time of year that you can change. So under 65 is November 1st through January 15th. It used to be December 15th, but they extended it due to the American Rescue Plan. And Medicare open enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Now, that's for people that are already on Medicare, already on plans. They just want to change or they want to enroll. Medicare is a different ball game. You basically have a special enrollment when you turn 65. So, but that's the time that you can change your plans.
Okay, great. Yeah, so with people that are watching this video after it's just released, we're in the tail end of open enrollment for those procrastinators. So hopefully they can learn something from this. In terms of health insurance, can people get health insurance anytime they want?
So, no, it depends on the state. But also what happened, it has to be an open enrollment. Outside that open enrollment, there has to be a qualifying event, which means like in the last 60 days, did you move? Did you have a baby? Get divorced? Lose a job? Those are the times that you're going to be able to get a plan outside that open enrollment time. But
Okay.
it's in the last 60 days. So super important that, you look at the time that you lost coverage to the time you're enrolling.
Okay. You mentioned moving. Is that like moving one state to another? Like what qualifies it in terms of moving?
Yeah, so one state to another, and you had to have had qualifying coverage in that state prior to moving. So if
Nice.
someone's decided, hey, I'm going without insurance, but then I'm going to move and get insurance, they had to have coverage prior.
Yeah, makes sense. So ACA, it's Affordable Care Act, healthcare.gov. What is that all about? What kind of plans are available through healthcare.gov?
So healthcare.gov, it's a health insurance exchange. It's a website. It's operated by the government for the Affordable Care Act, so also known as like Obamacare. It serves residents of the US that have opted to, like, sometimes people like they have their own exchange. Like Maine started going with their own state exchange. So now they're on that. But it's basically a marketplace to go shopping. And that's where I go and say, okay, well, based on your situation, there are bronze plans. So high deductible plans, lower premiums, go into silver, which is, you got a lower deductible, but your premiums start going high. And then you start going into your gold plan where you're like lower deductibles, higher premiums every month.
So do these plans cost the same for everyone? And is every situation the same?
Everybody's situation is different. So it's all based on, you know, age. Um, if do you have a family? What's your income? Because you can qualify for tax credits, subsidies based on your income. So, it's pretty much a discount on your premiums monthly. Um, so I go through that and check. Sometimes people can get cost sharing reductions. So people can get silver plans super cheap based on the fact of their income. So there's a lot to play in. And like sometimes somebody will come to me and say, hey, I don't ever use my insurance. I make X amount of money. They don't have to have this gold plan. They can go to something like a bronze plan, and we kind of gear it towards what they're using their insurance for.
The way that it worked for me was you're basically putting all your information and it spits out a number. You could qualify for X amount of a subsidy, right? Um, where do you go from there?
So basically, when you're putting in that information, it's your projected income. So nobody knows what they're going to make in the future. So
Yeah.
it's like, what do you think you're going to make in the future? Oh, okay. I'm going to make $60,000. Well, you get that tax credit based on the $60,000. Then if at the end of the year, when you go do your taxes come 2023, let's talk about, if they're going to say, hey, what did you pay for insurance? What did you make? Did you pay more than you were supposed to? Then we're going to give that back. If you took too much, you're going to pay us back. It's like a reconciliation.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about HSAs, so health savings accounts. So I have an HSA myself. I did an episode on HSAs previously, but there are a few points that I wasn't aware of that are of note. So one is related to Medicare premiums. I didn't realize that you could actually use HSA funds for Medicare premiums.
Yes. So you can pay them for your Part B. You can use them for your Part B. You can also use them for your Medicare Advantage or your drug plan. You can't use them for your Medigap plans, any Medicare supplements. You can't use them for that.
Okay, interesting. And then when we were talking previously, you also mentioned a catch-up contribution. What can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So typically, when I am working with in the under 65 on the ACA, healthcare.gov, there's HSA qualified health plans. So sometimes people are like, I like the lower max out of pocket, and I like the fact that I can contribute. It's kind of like a savings account put in there. And if I put it in, if I don't use it, I don't lose it. So that's a typical thing that they like. But when I'm talking to someone that's 55 or older, so right in 2023, an individual can contribute $3,850. For a family, it's 7,750. If that person was 55 or older, they can add an additional $1,000 to catch up that contribution.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned Medicare Part B. I know there's Part A, and it's, at least to me, it's all confusing because I haven't dealt with that yet. So can you provide like a quick overview to give us some insight into kind of what Medicare is all about?
Yeah, so Medicare Part A, you get that when you turn 65. Part B, sometimes if people are still working at an employer, that has more than 20 employees. Sometimes people delay their Part B. But if someone enrolls when they're 65, Part A and B, that's what they're getting. That's what original Medicare is. If someone is not in an employer plan and just decided, hey, I don't want to enroll in Part B when I'm first eligible, then they can get penalized on their Part B and they can get penalized on their drug plan. So you want to, and that stays with you for the rest of your life. So you want to make sure that when you're first eligible for Medicare, you talk to somebody to make sure that you are not incurring any penalties.
So I know people really want to go to the doctor that they like, and maybe for some plans you're not allowed to do that, or you may trip upon some issues if you try to go to one doctor over another. Can you tell me a little bit about the various types of plans and like which ones have restrictions on like what doctors you can see and which ones are more open?
Yeah, definitely. So I work in 9 different states. So every state's different, but I'll talk about where we are right now, New Hampshire. There are 3 carriers in New Hampshire right now, which is Anthem Blue Cross, Harvard Pilgrim, and Ambetter. Those are all HMO plans. You're not allowed to go out of the network. If you do, it's on you 100%. They don't have the option in the individual market to have a PPO where you can go in and out of network. PPO allows that, but you pay more. But New Hampshire doesn't offer that. In some cases, like in Maine, they do have a PPO, so you can go in and out of network. So it just depends on where you are. But there are those restrictions where you just can't go wherever you want, unfortunately, even as far as down to the hospitals in the plan. So that's what I kind of go through and kind of say, okay, what's important to you? Who's your doctors? What are the medications you take? So that make sure that plan accepts all that stuff.
Okay. And I know in some plans you have to get a referral, others you don't. What defines like whether a referral is needed?
So if you're going to see a specialist, you're going to need a referral. Um, like Medicare is a little bit different ball game. So there are PPO options in Medicare, not in the individual. So it's a little bit more flexible when you get to that point, because you can go in and out of network, or most of the people are in network. So, that's a little bit different.
So what would you say to someone that tells you, Brittany, I'm healthy, I never have to go to the doctor, why would I need a health plan?
Well, I would say at a minimum, you should have a health plan to at least get your preventative services done. So you get a lot when you get your annual physicals, blood work. They do mammograms, pap smears, prostate exams, like all your immunizations. Those are all covered 100%. So those things catch a lot of stuff before the event where you have stage 4 cancer and now you have to treat that and you don't have insurance. They're catching all of that stuff first. So at least having an insurance plan that covers your preventative stuff is in itself just a plus. So I would say yes, that, but then talk about like all of the expenses as far as you broke your leg, you went into the emergency room, you got diagnosed with cancer. Most of the time, people don't have that money. First of all, people are doing GoFundMe's when they have insurance, let alone if you don't have insurance. Imagine how much your GoFundMe is going to be. Most of the time, I see GoFundMe's that are about $10,000 to $15,000. That's usually a max out of pocket for somebody. So they're not reaching that. So when I'm talking to somebody, we're talking about that and saying, do you have 10 grand to be able to come up with this? Or do you want to be able to go to mass doctors if you got diagnosed with cancer? Well, you can't go to mass doctors from New Hampshire health insurance. So we're putting plans together and I'm educating you on why you can't do that, but how you can, if something like that was to come up, how you can alleviate the costs of that.
So what would you say to someone that says, I just simply can't afford insurance, it's way too expensive?
So what I would say if somebody said they couldn't afford insurance is that to reevaluate that again, because there are, first of all, tax credits based on income, and people between, it used to be between 150 and 400% of the federal poverty level, people were getting tax credits and subsidies. Now it's between 150 and 600% of the federal poverty level. So now people that have more income, have a bigger family, or even a smaller family, they're still getting help with their premiums. So it's always good to just check. It doesn't cost anything to do that. You're just giving information as far as, hey, this is what I make. This is my situation. This is my doctor. What's the cost of it? And if it's too expensive and you can't afford it, then you don't you're not obligated to sign up for it. It's just checking. So it's always good to check. So you probably could afford it.
Yeah. And you missed one of the obvious answers, which was, well, you got to work with a money coach to free up more money
Yeah.
to
Yes.
insurance, right?
Yes.
So one common complaint might be, hey, I'm paying a ton for this premium. Why am I still getting bills for my insurance?
Yeah. So most insurance plans, if not all, have deductibles and they have max out of pockets, where even when people are paying a good amount of money for their premiums monthly, they still will have some out of pocket stuff. So when I'm talking to people, I let them know that, hey, just because you pay this premium, it's not 100% covered, after this amount it is. But we're also talking about, why can't the insurance company pay you if something like that happens? Like, most of the time when you're hitting your deductible or your max out of pocket and getting those bills is because you had something go on. Like, you had a diagnostic test, or you went to the emergency room, or you had to do an MRI, stuff like that. Those are what's really causing you to get those extra bills. And there are ways that you can have the insurance company pay you with supplemental to be able to pay those bills that come in. So you don't have to dip into your own savings.
So that's a lot of information. But hopefully it's something that gets people thinking about health coverage, open enrollment. Hopefully there are at least a few nuggets of information that people can learn from this. So I really wanted to thank you, Brittany, for joining me for today.
Yes.
And what's a good way for people to reach you if they have questions?
So you can call me, text me. My cell number is 978-645-1234, or you can email me. It's brobichaud@healthmarkets.com. And those are the easiest ways to get in touch with me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Brittany.
Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate that.
All right. Take care.
You too.